But if you're thinking about making Lefse at home and you haven't got a hold of one of these yet, they're just $3.95. It's our 8 Easy Steps booklet, and it has our recipe on the inside cover, and then it goes over the 8 steps, and it's got some nice color photographs and some detailed instructions there. So it'll break out a little bit more than what I'm doing here today. But we also have our video too. It's on DVD, or you can watch it on our website at lefsetime.com. So if anything that you get today, I would grab this. Okay. So what we got here is kind of the essentials for Lefse making. We got the rolling pin, a board, sticks, grill, and cozy little flour dredger, and I'll kind of go over all the products and then how to prep them for your Lefse making. But what we got here then is our Lefse dough, and we started out with a russet potato. And here, if we can, we really like Kitchen Clean brand potatoes. They're actually grown in Wisconsin, so you know they're good. But we like a russet potato, and we peel them, quarter them, and then they're boiled in lightly salted water. And they're boiled till they're just fork tender. So if I poke my fork in there, my potatoes crumble, I've cooked my potatoes too long. You want them a little bit on the firm side so that when you push them through a ricer, you'll get really nice fluffy potatoes. If you're pushing them through here and you got water coming out first, you might have troubles because you have extra moisture in your dough. So, but this is a ricer. This is heavy duty ricer. They call it heavy duty because it has these nice stainless steel handles. So those work really great for ricing your potatoes. So we've peeled, boiled, we've riced them. The next thing we do, we add butter to it and mix all that butter in, and then they're refrigerated overnight. And that way we get our potatoes nice and chilled before we add our other ingredients, because if we were to add our flour to our warm or hot potatoes, it just turns to goo. It is not good. So we like to have them chilled. Overnight is great. It's just great. And so now they refrigerated overnight. We added our cream, salt, sugar, and flour. And what we do is we actually scoop them out. It's with I guess we just call it ice cream scoop, a cafeteria disher. And this scoop is 1/3 cup of dough. And we like to measure them out because then when we get to here, we know how big to roll each sheet. There's no guesswork in it. So even at home, you know, if you're making it, you can roll them in a log and slice them into equal sized pieces, but try to get them as similar in size as you can, so you're not, you know, you don't have to roll a little one and the big one, figuring out how thin you want to get it. But here's the thing with your Lefse recipe too, we get asked a lot, my edges are so cracked and frilly, or they're crisping up. Well, if you were to take this patty here and start rolling that, you can see all those cracks and frills around there. Well, they just get worse and worse as you roll. So with your recipe or our recipe, it doesn't matter. What I like to do is just kind of squish it back and forth in my hands, like a little kneading, if you would. And what that does is going to bring my dough together a little bit more than what I did. Maybe 15, 20 times you do that. And then I like to roll into a big meatball. These are very technical terms. And then from there, I just kind of squish it down to a little patty.
Yeah.
And again, patty. I call it a patty because it looks like a hamburger patty to me. Again, very technical terms. And so what I'm looking for, though, is I'm looking to see if I have any big cracks or things in there. And I just take my fingers and I just kind of smooth it out a little bit. And so now, if I go and I'm going to roll my Lefse on there, and I have any cracks and frills, I might get nice smooth edges when I roll out my Lefse. So that's no matter, like I said, if you use our recipe or your recipe, this tip helps a lot for rolling out your Lefse. So when we mix in all of our ingredients too, I actually like to knead my dough with my hands. It brings everything together, gets rid of any extra lumps and bumps that will be in there, so that really helps your dough too. All right. So my big meatball here, and then I just squish it down in the patty. Another little tip at Lefse Time, we like those really, really nice smooth edges. Grab it like a little wheel and we're going to roll it across the table. And then I got super smooth edges. Yeah. So we really like that too. All right. So those are our patties. Patty making. Let's only do that a few hours before you're ready to cook. The night before, the patties don't hold up very well. I think the moisture in the potatoes will start to get through to the flour. They'll get kind of weepy. They'll discolor a little bit. So we like to make them just up a few hours ahead of time. But also put your patties, we just have to use a cookie sheet here. You can use a plate, a tray, or something at home. Put them on your tray. They can be stacked. That's fine. You can stack them up. But put them on something that will slip into your refrigerator. Because you never know if something might come on and get distracted. And you don't want your dough to get super soft or super warm. Because then you'll have troubles rolling. So you might need to chill them down a little bit. So that's why I say a tray or a plate or something. Just toss them in the fridge. They'll cool down really quick for you. All right, so we got to prep our things because we're going to get rolling out our patties here. This is a pastry board and cloth. So here's our nice hard board. It has little rubber feet on it. I will tell you these are probably about 10 years old and the rubber feet don't stick very well anymore. A brand new one it will. But then it's just stretched with this pastry cloth. And this is like a really heavy canvas fabric. And they work great for rolling out lefse. Because one, I know how big to get it. But this fabric will hold flour in it. And flour was what helps it from sticking to everything. So what I need to do is get this full of flour. And this is just a little handy little flour dredger. I'm going to shake my flour out here. And I'm going to try to push this flour right down into the fabric. I'm just going to keep pushing it in there, and I'm going to go out to my 14 inches. Because that's how big I'm going to roll my lefse. And I'm pushing that in there. All right, so it looks like it's pushed in there, and I can still see my words through there. And I think I can get some more in there, so I'm gonna dust some more and see if I can get it worked on that fabric a little bit more. Okay, doesn't look like it's going in there, does it? Kind of floating around in the top. So I'm going to take a little dusting. I'm just going to spread that out. And I like to call that my float. It isn't in the cloth, but it's not in my lefse. It kind of just lays there between as I roll it out. So I like to sprinkle that out. And then I always cover up the little letters that are in the middle. And I put a little extra flour there in the middle. That's where every patty starts. And if there's going to be some moisture buildup, that's where things start to stick. So a little extra attention there in the middle. So that's a board that's ready for rolling. And then we have our Lefse rolling pin, corrugated rolling pins. You can see we have just dusted this out. It's been used before this week for Lefse, but we just dusted out all the flour. But we have to pack all these grooves back up with flour before we roll, because this is just going to stick to everything. But we really like the corrugated rolling pin because these little grooves kind of cut through the dough as you're pushing out. Where with a smooth pin, you're just using a lot of pressure to get that really big. So the grooves are really nice for getting thin lefse. And you guys probably recognize this little tray, right? Looks like a cake pan lid.
Oh, sure. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Accident stumbled across that. Our rolling pin fits in there really great.
Perfect.
Yes. So this is just a little speed tip. Is rather than prepping our pin on top of here or somewhere else, we are just going to roll our rolling pin right through the flour. And the little lips in there keeps the flour in our tray. So I'm just going to push it right through. And then I'm going to push the flour into the grooves. I want to push it right down into all those corrugated grooves. I'm going end to end, filling it up all the way to the top. All right, that looks good. So that's a rolling pin that's prepped and ready to go. You can see it filled up all the grooves. All right, pins prepped, boards prepped, grill's hot. We're ready to go. Though we'll cover some more tools here. You can see the little flour dredger. This works great for powdered sugar too. This is a Lefse cozy. You don't have to have those for Lefse making. You can use a towel at home. And flour sack towels work great. But if you use a towel or if you use a cozy, you know, if you launder it, don't use dryer sheets or fabric softener. You'll have spring fresh Lefse. It's yucky. It's happened to me. So, okay, no matter what you're using, we're going to catch our Lefse off the grill on our cloths. And they're called cozies because you'll stack your Lefse up and put a cover on it or lid on it, and your Lefse stays nice and cozy in there. So there's your Lefse cozy. And then we have our Lefse turning sticks here. So this is 7/8 inch wide. This is a very traditional stick. If you got Lefse equipment handed down to you, this is probably the stick you got with all of your stuff. Works really, really great. But here in our kitchen, we have our 1.5 inch wide stick. About the same length, but we really like the wide stick because you are turning your stick. You're doing this motion. And with the wide stick, you're doing it less. But, you know, everybody has their personal preference. So, but if you're a new person to Lefse, I suggest using the 1.5 inch stick. So there's our Lefse sticks. And then we have our Lefse grill. We're using a non-stick Lefse grill here. That's what we use in our kitchens because I have one cook manning 3 grills, and sometimes when you're moving really fast, you miss the grill. Well, with the non-stick, you can slide your Lefses right back on there. But the other nice thing about a non-stick grill, if you're thinking about investing in equipment, is you can use it for other things. I understand it makes fabulous fried fish and pancakes and grilled cheese, so that's an option. We have it on top of an old piece of countertop and just a towel to catch flour that's dusted off there. I have metal tables, hot grill, I get a hot table, so that we just a little heat protector there. And then I have a dry cloth here, and I just use that to dust off extra flour. And pastry brush in case you get too much flour on your Lefse. How are we doing? Everybody still with me? All right. So we're going to roll out our Lefse here. This can be very intimidating for people because you want to get from here out to here in super, super thin. Don't let it get the best of you. It's really not that hard. But you're going to put your patty down right in the middle of your board, and then using just the weight of the pin for those first couple strokes. Because you can see it's pretty soft dough. It doesn't need a lot of pressure. So just back and forth until I get like a little egg shape. And then I like to change directions. And I keep changing directions back and forth. And I pick up when I get to the edge of my Lefse. If I roll off like this, every time I roll my Lefse, I'm going to get super, super thin edges. And they'll cook up really crispy. So I want to pick up when I get to my edge of my Lefse dough. Alright, so we're just going back and forth and changing directions. And by changing directions, it helps me get that nice circle. Like I said, you can turn your board. That's not supposed to happen.
It looks like it's working pretty well. Just
yeah. Alright, so we're getting out there. Okay. So if you can see really closely, you can kind of see our lines there. And I went just beyond that 14 inches. And I go just beyond that because Lefse shrinks a lot when it hits that hot grill. So I like to go just beyond there. All right, so we got to get this from here to there. People get a little nervous about this. They're afraid the Lefse is going to fall off their stick or something. And it's actually a little tougher than you think. But there is, the one trick that I have for this is keep your Lefse stick level. When you get it on its side, that's a sharp edge and it will cut through. So keep your stick nice and level. So we're just going to go right through the middle there, all the way to the other side. I want to see my stick on the other side. And then we pick up. We're coming to our hot grill, meeting the edge of our Lefse with the edge of the grill. And you lay down and you're unrolling. See, when I talk about turning that stick, that's where we're turning it. Okay, see our nice steam cooking up off of there? That's why we're cooking at 500 degrees today, because if I'm at 350, 400, that steam keeps cooking out, that moisture keeps cooking out, and by the time I've got my brown freckles, I might have lost too much of my moisture and now get really tough Lefse. So I'm just going to peek right under here and see if I have nice golden brown freckles to turn my Lefse with. So I do, right through the middle, picking up, meeting my edge of my Lefse with the edge of the grill, laying down and unrolling. Okay, second side cooks a lot faster. So you want to pay attention a lot quicker, because it's already heated all the way through.
Oh, I don't know where it came from.
There we go. Nice freckles. Right through the middle. I'm going to pick up and I bring to my Lefse cozy here and I just unroll it. Same thing. And so we got our nice golden brown freckles on there. That's this would be what we would sell. And the golden brown meets the satisfaction of the majority of our customers. But if you like your Lefse a little bit darker, you can cook it darker. But there's a fine line between dark and burnt, so you do need to pay attention to it. I got my dry cloth here. I'm going to dust off that flour. This 5-6 sheets on there, this brown Lefse will start to burn on there. Then you get black flecks on your Lefse, so we dust it off. But at home then, you'll take your Lefse and stack like 10 or 12 high and put a cover on it and then set it aside to cool. The only trouble with that is you want to put it somewhere that might be cooler than the room you're cooking in, because if they're warm for hours and hours, you're going to have soggy Lefses in the middle. So if you don't, like when I was a kid, it got thrown out on the deck. You can put it in the garage, somewhere that's a little bit cooler. But here at Lefse Time, because we have room, we put just 3 in the cozy and they overlap and they cool really fast. And then from there, we just fold it and cover them with a cloth. And then they just stay ready for when you are time to package it up. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to leave them out here like this so they cool down. And we're going to eat some. See how much flour got pulled off of there? I want to get that ready again. So I'm going to push a little flour in. Push it in. And then I'm going to give my little dust here back and forth across the top. And cover up the middle. All right. So I got my board and my pen. That means I'm ready to roll. Right there in the middle. And then just back and forth. Nice, easy strokes. I think these pins are like 2.5 pounds. So they have nice weight to them. They're a nice hardwood pin. And I just keep changing directions. But now that I'm out to my saucer size there, or dinner plate there, I'm going to start using more pressure. Because I want to get way out there to that 14 inches.
Very good.
Pushing now a little bit further. Now I like to use full strokes. I go back and forth across my Lefse. But you don't have to do it that way. You can find your own rhythm. And if you're very particular about your Lefse, you go across and across, so you little cross after. Okay, so we gotta go through the middle again, picking up, and then I'm meeting my edge of my Lefse with the edge of the grill, and then I'm unrolling. And you can see how much it's shrinking. It comes in really fast. Did you say I make it look too easy?
Yeah.
I've been doing Lefse for a while. So we're looking for those nice cues that it's ready to go. You can see there's just little bubbles on there. We want to see them a little bit bigger than that before we start checking. Alright, those are the bubbles I like to see before I start checking. And I just take a peek. It's so hard to time your Lefse. Because if you have someone that's a really fast roller, you're going to be cooking one sheet right after the next. And when you're cooking one sheet after the next, the grill stays on all the time. And it's always hot. But if you have someone that rolls a little slower, if you're doing it all by your lonesome, you know, it might take a little bit longer to cook. Alright. Nice little sizzle. You can see how much it shrunk up from there. And we're just going to keep peeking. That looks great. Wonderful. All the way through. And like I said at home, you know, just bring that up, stack them right on top of the next. That's just fine. But we are going to cool it down a little faster, so I'm just going to stretch it out. They're really quite fragile when they're really hot off the grill, so you don't want to tug them too hard. Okay, wrapping that pin. Alright, thank you. Okay, I'm going to put a little flour, push it in a little bit. Dust it across. You can have too much flour, but yet it's hard not to say you have too much flour. When you know you have too much flour, you'll see you get like a ridge at the edge of your lefse. And if you do have that much lefse or flour on your board, it will start sticking to your lefses, and that's where this comes in handy, because then you can just dust it off after it's been cooked. But if you see that happening, you know, just kind of slide all that flour into the middle. Yep. All right, so right there in the middle then, changing directions, lifting when I get to that edge. Okay, so this is the other thing I teach my students is, you know, because I use full strokes, not everybody likes this, so I call it my push and pull. And when I say push and pull, there's my middle of my sheet. I'm going to push from the middle, and I'm going to pull from the middle. And what that does is really helps you get that sheet out round. I'll use a combination of the two. This is one of those things you kind of have to find your own rhythm with. Alright. But we're getting those nice smooth edges on our lefse sheets. And that's how working those patties makes all that difference. Okay, so I said sometimes you miss the grill. And that's really frustrating. Take your towel or your whole hot pad and then just kind of slide it on there. And that is the nice perk about the non-stick ones. If you have a well-seasoned aluminum grill, it'll work the same way. But if it's a newer one, you'll let your lefse cook like 15-20 seconds, and then you can slide it on there. And we're left, the morning class, I was having big bubbles in my lefse. Why, I don't know. It's one of those things. If you get a big bubble, just go ahead and poke a little hole in there. I'll just shake it up. Edge with my edge. And unrolling. Excellent. So you got any questions for me?
Sure. Let's start with that one. So, like, we've been doing this a long time, so you know exactly how much dough to hit the circle. And so when we start out, we're gonna be like, okay, well, how much, if we decide to try this. For thicknesses, I mean, can you go too thin? And if you go thicker, what are the downfalls?
Well, so do you have a recipe you're using right now?
No, I mean, we're just,
Okay. Well, a third a cup of dough, I think, whether it's our recipe or anybody else's recipe, is I would roll a 14-inch sheet of lefse with that. Because that gives you a really nice thin lefse. If you don't like your lefse that thin, you like a thicker lefse, then use that same measurement, but only roll maybe a 12-inch round. With our recipe, though, the thicker it is, it tends to be really, really soft.
okay.
Yeah.
So it's more of a personal preference on the thickness.
Yes.
Right.
Yep. Traditionally, everybody wants really thin lefse. That's the big thing. There is, like, if you go to Norway, they have street cart vendors there, and they call it lefse, or a lot of tourists call it lefse, but it's more like a potato pancake, and it's really thick. And they wrap it around sausage, but it's a lot thicker than what lefse is for us. But again, if you don't like this big a sheet, you're like, this is a bigger sheet than I like to work with. So dial back your patties to a quarter cup, and then roll a 12-inch round of lefse. But for a rule of thumb, I think that will work for most recipes. Is a third cup of dough is going to give you a big 14-inch round of lefse. Can you get it too thin? Yes, you can get it too thin, because then what'll happen is when you go to pick it up, there's so much. If you have a big sheet, there's so much weight for it to pick up from the middle, then it will pull right through. So yeah, you can get it too thick.
What about care on the pastry board? I mean, just dusting it off, is that essentially all you do to it?
So, like for me, my pastry cloths I have at home, all I do is I scrape out all the flour and I take it outside and shake it up, and because of the frequency I use it. But okay, this is the once a year thing. I'm not going to use this. So scrape out this flour, take it outside, shake it out, and then launder it.
Yeah, but we decided to take the day off.
It's you can just you do it with your regular laundry, but you want to make sure it gets really well rinsed. You can hand wash them. They perform really well in the washing machine. That's just fine. But like I said, you want to stay away from that scent and stuff. Yeah. But if you think, you know what, I might be making pie next month or something. I don't know if I want to wash this, because the old wives say out there, you should never wash your pastry cloth, right? Well, that's not necessarily true, because sometimes you get dough stuck in there, and then you need to clean it up. But you have my cloth is good. I'm going to use it in a couple weeks or a couple months. I don't want to launder it. So scrape it out, take it outside, shake it up, and then put it in a zip top baggie and toss it in the freezer.
Oh, okay.
So it'll keep just fine in there. Yep. But
what I was worried about is some doughs are oily and you get the oil on it. Like the pie crust is going to have a lot of the shortening component in it, and then it gets impregnated. And you worry about that going rancid if it's just sitting there. So you make the pie crust in here, but you're not ready to launder it. Do the freezer thing. Okay. But when you take it out of the freezer, stretch it across your board right away. Yeah.
So just slides off of there?
It is. It's a little drawstring on there.
Oh, okay.
It's just got a little drawstring on there.
Yeah.
These are just tied with a bow, and you can just untie it, and they'll loosen right up, and I just cinch it on there as tight as I can for the next one. So there. I don't know. These get washed. Well, I washed them up this time because I wanted to show you how to prep it from scratch.
Sure.
Because if it's a laundered one or a new one, you really want to push that flour in there before you start doing anything. Because if you just lay flour across there, that's like laying it on your countertop. It's going to push right through that flour. It's going to stick to your cloth, and then you're going to be ticked off. And so that is a really nice thing about those cloths, though, is they hold up for a lot of different stuff. What else you got for me?
How long do they keep?
The Lefses?
Yeah, when's it?
Okay, so in the freezer, well, fresh like this, about a week. Because it has that dairy in there, it just doesn't have the longest shelf life. So we actually, the Lefse that we sell here is frozen. And in the freezer, it lasts for months and months. I have a gal, she comes in this time every year. She brings her cooler down from the cities. And this last time she told me, I just opened my last package of Lefse from last year, and it's delicious. So. But you don't want to put Lefse like on the door of your freezer. You want to keep it in the coolest part. Because now most of our freezers are frost free.
Right.
So it means it's heating up your food and cooling it. You know. So you'll get condensation in your bag. So put it in the coldest part of your freezer. But it'll freeze really well. And then I'll show you here. I'll do this. I'll do one more and then we'll do some taste testing. But I'll show you how to package your Lefse. For freezing. Cool down. I'm going to package it for freezing. So I'm going to fold it in half and half again. And I'm folding it in half and half again. And I'm going to take that folded corner and I'm going to rotate it through so I have a corner on each side. And then when I end up here, and I'll do, I mean, you can do however many will fit in your bag. 4 or 6 is usually nice. But we do that because then the edges of our Lefse stay in the middle of our stack, and that's when it's in the freezer for a long time, the edges want to dry out, you know? Yep. So they stay tucked in the middle there, and like I said, square stacks fit really good in square bags. Yeah. So let's do some taste testing. Now this was just made, so it's super tender, super fresh. Lefse, as it ages, gets a little tougher because it loses a little more moisture. This is super tender. And this is just your regular old butter. Alright, so when I was a kid, that's how you served Lefse. Just stack them up on a plate just like that. And then, like I said, stick it gravy. It was really good for soaking up gravy. I'm gonna get a little plate here. So I'm gonna have you guys try some with just butter. There we go. And then we'll try some with a little butter and sugar. First impression?
Really potato flavor really comes through. And yeah, it's very tender.
Yeah, super tender.
Super tender.
Alright. So this is with sugar. And then we're going to do something with lingonberries. Like I said, lingonberries, very Scandinavian berry. They make cakes and breads and cookies and all kinds of desserts with lingonberries. And I like to share those because they're a favorite there. So lingonberries are really small and tiny. They look like the size of a pea, but they're tart like a cranberry. And they are fabulous on top of turkey and chicken and all that good stuff. And it's very good on Lefse. But this isn't a sweetened sauce, so it's just a little tart sweet. And that's jam and butter is one of my favorite ways to eat Lefse. I love, my mom makes that strawberry freezer jam, you know, And they have that with some butter and it's dangerous. Very dangerous. What do you think of the lingonberries? Not too bad, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's delicious.